you so much for coming out here tonight on this very cold night. Tonight, I want to discuss the story of Yosef HaTzadik alav Shalom and the brothers, which, as I said, always falls out during the Jug of Chanukah. And there are many lessons from their story that we could apply to our daily lives. So the first thing I'm going to do is provide you with a very brief summary, and then we're going to move on to the main event and how that was connected to Hanukkah and how that connects to our life. In these last few parashiot, there's a lot of turmoil that's unfolding around Yosef, who's Yaakov Avinu's favorite son. He's hated by the brothers who are jealous of the fact that Yaakov favors Yosef. They're further angered when he brings negative reports about them to Yaakov, and the hatred intensifies even more when he shares these dreams with them, which indicate that he's going to be superior over them. And one day, while the brothers are tending the sheep in Shechem, Yaakov Avinu sends Yosef out to inquire about their welfare. When the brothers see him coming from a distance, they start to plot his murder. Reuven convinces them not to kill him, but to rather throw him into a nearby pit. And his intentions are to come back later to pull Yosef out and save his life. So when Yosef arrives, the brothers rip off his cloak. They throw him into this deep pit that's filled with snakes and scorpions. Shortly thereafter, a caravan of Ishmaelim pass by, and the brothers decide to sell Yosef instead of allowing him to die in the pit, and Yosef is then sold for 20 silver coins. The brothers then dip Yosef's cloak in animal's blood, and they show it to their father, leading him to believe that his beloved Yosef was devoured by a wild beast. And then Yaakov, poor man, descends into mourning while Yosef is brought to Egypt and sold to Potiphar. Yosef earns Potiphar's trust, and he's appointed overseer over all his possessions. Meanwhile, Potiphar's wife is attracted to Yosef, and she attempts to seduce him. When he refuses her seduction several times, she becomes infuriated, and she accuses him of seducing her and raping her and attacking her. Potiphar has no other choice, and he throws Yosef into the Egyptian dungeon. In prison, Yosef meets Paro's butler and baker, who are also prisoners, and he interprets their dreams, telling the butler that in 3 days he's going to be released, while the baker is going to be executed. Yosef's interpretations prove to be true, and he then asks the butler to remember him when he's released, but the butler quickly forgets him. A year later, after having already spent 11 long years in prison, Yosef is finally remembered by the butler, who recommends him to Paro as a dream interpreter. Paro summons Yosef, and he shares his dreams with him. And Yosef interprets the dreams to Paro's satisfaction. As a result of that, Paro makes Yosef second in command, and he becomes the overseer of the entire land of Egypt. Whoa. What a story. Ladies, there is no character in the Chumash that is more complex and more intriguing than Yosef HaTzadik, Yaakov Avinu's favorite son. But somehow the picture that the Torah paints of him is amazingly complex and at times even contradictory. On the one hand, we're told, Vayihi Yosef Yefet Toar V'yefeh mar'eh. He was handsome of form and of appearance. So he emerges on the scene at the age of 17 as a personally engaging and naturally successful young man, a young man who certainly knows how to win friends and influence people. No matter where Yosef is placed or what circumstance he finds himself in, he always manages to rise to the top. In his own home, he's his father's favorite. When he's enslaved in the house of Potiphar, he impresses the master so much that he's appointed overseer over everything that Potiphar owns. When he's thrown into prison, he makes such an impression on the chief officer that he's made supervisor of all the other prisoners. When he's taken out of prison to have an audience with Paro, he interprets the king's dreams so successfully that Paro appoints him to rule over the entire Egyptian empire, and he becomes second in command only to Paro himself. That's incredible. No matter where he is, no matter what circumstance he finds himself in, he always rises to the top. That's on one hand. On the other hand, when you're reading the psukim, at face value, it seems that this very highly successful and engaging young man is guilty of questionable behavior, specifically with regards to his own family, because he shows a surprising lack of diplomacy when dealing with his family members. He seems to be oblivious to his brother's hatred towards him, and he makes matters worse when he delivers the negative reports about them to his father. Then he further infuriates them by sharing with them on 2 separate occasions the details of his personal dreams, which reflect his superiority over them. Later in the story, when the brothers go down to Egypt and Yosef is already a second in command, he deliberately hides his true identity from them, and he proceeds to put them through a series of frightful and painful experiences. And only when Yehuda finally steps forward in defense of the youngest brother Benjamin does Yosef reveal himself. So how do we view Yosef, this very complex biblical figure? According to Rabbanim, according to the Gemara, according to the Midrashim, the answer is very clear. Yosef is constantly referred to by a title that's awarded only to a very select few. Whereas the Avot are titled Avinu, Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, whereas the Imahot are known as Imenu, Sarah Imenu, Rivka Imenu, and so on, whereas Moshe earns the title of Rabbenu, Yosef is simply Yosef HaTzadik. But if his story is so complex and even contradictory, in what zchut does Yosef earn the title of HaTzadik? What do all the Chachamim see in Yosef's life that moves them so deeply? Well, we find that a momentous but very subtle change takes place in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's relationship with man when Yosef appears on the scene. Now, I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, but for the first time in the Torah HaKadosha since Parashat Bereshit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is silent. Did you ever notice that? Did you ever notice that? Did you? What about you over there? Did you ever? Think about it. From Bereshit, Hashem spoke with Adam, with Noach, with Avraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov at very critical points in their lives. He commanded them, he instructed them, he reassured them, he promised them. Suddenly, when it comes to the story of Yosef HaTzadik, Hashem stops talking. When Yosef is heartlessly thrown into the pit by his brothers. The same Hashem who reassured his father doesn't say a word. When Yosef is faced with the nisayon of Potiphar's wife, Hashem is seemingly nowhere to be found. When Yosef is thrown into prison and he's alone in a foreign country, Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't comfort him. And when he makes his first appearance before Paro, Hashem doesn't tell him what to say or do. So it seems as though Yosef, by himself, has to rise to the occasion. So whereas his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather had the benefit of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's clear advice, Yosef, under the most trying and painful circumstances, has to find his own way. Can you explain that to me? How does Yosef react to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's apparent absence from the picture of his life? How does he respond to God's silence? Amazingly, he responds by bringing Hashem into the picture over and over again. Listen to what happens here. When Potiphar's wife makes her seductive demands on him, what does he say, Yosef? He says, Hen Adoni lo yada iti ma babayit, v'chol asher yesh lo natan beyadi. Einenu gadol babayit hazeh mimeni, ve'lo chasach mimeni me'uma ki im otach ba'asher at ishto. ואיך אעשה הרעה הגדולה הזאת וחטאתי לאלוקים? He says, my master trusts me implicitly in his house, and all that he owns he has given over to my hand. There is no one greater in this house than I, and he has denied me nothing other than you because you are his wife. How can I then commit this great evil and sin against God? That's interesting. Yosef should have said the words, how can I sin against my master Potiphar? But he switches gears because he knows that the challenge before him, it's not about his relationship to Potiphar. His sin is going to be against God. In other words, ladies, Yosef answers to a higher authority. Not only that, but in prison, when he's confronted with the troubled dreams of the butler and the baker, what does he say? He says, Halo le'elokim pitonim. Don't the interpretations belong to God? Yosef is given an opportunity to take credit for a very valuable talent in front of potentially powerful allies, and he attributes his powers to God. And when he's summoned before Paro and offered yet another opportunity, where the most powerful ruler of the civilized world at that time is asking him for help in an area that Yosef has already proven to be proficient at, once again, he refuses to accept the talent as his own. And when he's asked to interpret Paro's dreams, he says, Biladai, Elokim ya'aneh et shlom Paro. It's not me. God is going to respond to Paro's interest. And then Yosef goes on to mention HaKadosh Baruch Hu 4 additional times during his explanation to Paro, attributing everything that's about to happen in Egypt to Hashgacha Pratit. And Paro, the Egyptian monarch, is so deeply moved by Yosef's attitude that he says, Hanimtza chazeh ish asher ruach Elokim bo? Can we find another man like him in whom the Spirit of God lies? And then when Yosef finally reveals himself to his brothers, he repeatedly reassures them that it was all HaKadosh Baruch Hu's master plan. Ladies, this is a pele plaot. This is a wonder of wonders. Yosef's words show us his amazing ability to look back upon his pain-filled years and see in those very years Hashem's guiding hand. When you and I are reading these psukim, Hashem is absent. Hashem is silent. But from Yosef HaTzaddik's perspective, nothing that happened in his life, no matter how difficult or challenging, was a coincidence. Nothing. Whether it was his painful days as a slave, or his lonely years in prison, or whether it was his rise to power, as far as Yosef was concerned, it was all orchestrated for a higher purpose. As far as Yosef is concerned, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has been present, even in silent fashion, throughout his entire life. And therefore, ladies, we arrive not only at an understanding of Yosef's greatness, but also at a deep understanding of how that greatness speaks to you and speaks to me in this generation. Yosef is a tzaddik because he's the first one of our ancestors to maintain his emunah and bitachon while living during a time where HaKadosh Baruch Hu was seemingly quiet and absent. You hear this? Yosef emerges as the one Torah figure whose life experience most closely mirrors yours and mine. Because just like Yosef, we too live and have lived for centuries now in a non-prophetic world. We don't have Nevuah or Nevi'im. We don't have the Sanhedrin. There's no Bet Mikdash. There's no true leadership. There's no Moshe Rabbeinu telling us what to do, Al Pi Hashem. We're not standing at the foot of Har Sinai where God is commanding us what to do and how to do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu isn't speaking directly with your local rabbi or instructing him just like he did with Aravot. Nachon? When was the last time your local rabbi came to you and said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me? Vayomer Hashem El Rabbi, whatever. Kodem Kol, it says, it's brought down that after Churban Bet HaMikdash, it's very hard for someone to have Ruach HaKodesh in these generations of no Bet Mikdash unless he's on an extremely, extremely, extremely high level of Ruchaniyut. And for that, you would have to be living like, for example, like say in the world of, let's say, Sfaradim, you'd have to be living like someone like the Abu Chatzeras, where they have Shmirat Enaim, the level of Shmirat Enaim. I mean, Rabbi David Abu Chatzera Shalita does not even accept a letter if it was handwritten by a woman. You hear this? That's the level. Rav Kanievsky doesn't see women. You have to be in a very high level of spirituality. Not many people are zeicher. But anyway, so our challenge, ladies, just like Yosef, is to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hidden hand in the world around us and to remain strong in our emunah despite the challenges. Our mission now in these times of Mashiach, and you know from tonight what happened with Rubashkin, you know Mashiach is coming. Big time, you gotta admit. So our mission is to discover HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to embrace Hashem. And even when it seems as though Hashem is hiding himself from us, open your eyes and notice that he's there. Just like Yosef, we have to be focused on the goal ahead of us. What's the goal? The goal is Torah. The goal is Emet. The goal is Judaism and mitzvot. The goal is love and acceptance. The goal is to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in an attempt to create miracles for our people. You know, we were watching on the way here, we were watching some videos of people that when they heard about what happened with Rubashkin, they started to just open their homes for people to come and dance from such happiness. And we just saw an ad now, it's going around, viral. I have viral, I have a virus now, but in the world of technology, viral means something else. They were saying Borough Park 13th Avenue between 45th and 48th. Look how quickly the Hasidim work. They're geschickt, these people. They're closing off 45, 46, 47, 48 for dancing celebration in honor of the release of Rubashkin. You hear this? And they're telling us, spread the message. We want everyone to come dance. Mi K'Amcha Yisrael. If you want, you can come back and join us. Believe this? It's incredible. But anyway, there's so much we can learn from Yosef, who's without a doubt a tzaddik. You know why? Because Yosef is a man who believes in Hashem even when Hashem is silent. And that's a very hard thing to do. He's a man who persistently and stubbornly holds on to emunah and bitachon even when everything seems lost. And especially when it appears as if he's totally been abandoned. Yosef chooses to see Hashem's hidden hand in everything that transpires in his life, even as he's struggling to understand all the challenges that he's facing in life. Now, how often have we, his descendants, been faced with the very same challenges? How often have some of us felt alone, rejected, abandoned, hated maybe, confused? How often have we felt that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is silent and absent from the canvas of our lives? How often? How often do we ask the question of, Efa Hashem, where's God? Where is God? How often does a Talmidah tell me that she feels Hashem is ignoring her tefillot? I pray and I pray and I pray and nothing's happening. Efa HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a lady who lives in my building who pretty much admitted to me she used to come from a Hasidic house. Now she doesn't even believe in God anymore. She's like, I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. There's no God. He doesn't answer. Tonight I have an answer for her. Yosef is her answer. Throughout the history of our people, there have been many, many moments where we felt that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was hiding his face from us, that he was silent amid all the gruesome horrors that we faced. There's no doubt that we feel the great hastara. You know what hastara means, right? The hester panim, the hiddenness of Hashem. But interestingly, this hester panim is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually warned us about in Sefer Devarim in Parashat Vayelech, where he says, Va'anochi haster astir panai bayom hahu. I am going to hide my face on that day. Bayom hahu is later on in future generations. The beginning of this pasuk talks about this great hester panim that's going to last for a very, very long time. And it's been 2,000 years, Aliza, since HaKadosh Baruch Hu last revealed himself to any of the Nevi'im. But if you think about it, the Jewish people took on the trait of Yosef HaTzadik throughout all the years of Hastara. We're still holding on to that torch of Torah. We're still trying to develop our relationship with God. We're still praying for miracles and for the Mashiach. We're still keeping the mitzvot and coming together to listen to Divrei Torah like you're doing here tonight, so that we can strengthen our emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu even more. Isn't that true? So what kept us so connected to Hashem despite this great hester panim? What keeps us strong and filled with emunah even when HaKadosh Baruch Hu isn't talking to us? What keeps you coming back here every time? I'm going to tell you. You want to hear? Perhaps the answer lies in the fact that throughout the history of the Jewish people, deep within this great hester panim, each one of us ultimately feels deep down like she has her own personal and direct connection to Hashem. Isn't that true? Each one of us here has felt at some point in her life that Hashem was indeed there and listening to her. At some point. Each one of us may have heard HaKadosh Baruch Hu's voice guiding us somehow, some way. Our mission is to hear God's voice amid the hastara. Our job is to bring God into our lives amid His great hastara and to know without a doubt that He's indeed there and He's always been there. I'm going to tell you something amazing that I just realized the other day. Have you ever noticed that the word historia, what does historia mean? Historia? History. Means history. The word historia has this message that I'm talking to you about encoded within that word. How so? Because the word historia has the word Hester Ya. Hester Yud Hey. You hear this? Which means throughout this great history of ours, where it's going to seem that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hiding Himself from us, He wants us to know that He's there with us. Just think of the song, Ve'afilu be'astara, became a big hit, right? Why is it such a hit? Because it gives so many people chizuk. The words of this song are taken from Rabbi Nachman Mibreslev Alav Shalom Sefer Likutei Maharan. In his Sefer, he writes that even in the midst of this great hastara, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us in a very real way. And what's interesting is that Rabbi Nachman's words mirror the words in the pasuk in Sefer Devarim where HaKadosh Baruch Hu warns us that there's going to be hastara, not a regular hastara. He says haster astir. It's going to be a double hastara. It's going to be a very intense hiddenness. And this double lashon of haster astir is what Rabbi Nachman refers to in his Sefer where he writes the following. Listen to the words. He says, Aval be'emet, afilu bechol ha'hastarot. In reality, even amid all this hiddenness, ve'afilu behastara shebetoch ha'hastara, and even amid the hiddenness that's hidden, bevadai gam sham melubash HaKadosh Baruch Hu yitbarach. It's certain that even in such moments of hiddenness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is disguised amid the hastara. In other words, even amid the greatest concealment that we find ourselves at any given moment of life, and even if that concealment of Hashem is so great that we don't even realize that a God is hiding, even then, we should know that Hashem is right there beside us. You hear that, Shana? But you know what I found fascinating, ladies? Hold on to your chairs. When I was learning this pasuk in Sefer Devarim about Hashem hiding Himself from us, I kept reading and I read the next pasuk after that one and I couldn't believe what it said. The next pasuk, after HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, I'm going to hide from you on that day. The next pasuk reads like this. Ve'ata kitvu lachem et hashira hazot ve'lamda et bnei Yisrael. Hashem says, and now write for yourselves this song and teach it to Bnei Yisrael. You hear this? He says, Sima befihem leman tiyeh li hashira hazot le'ed bivnei Yisrael. Put it into their mouths in order that this song will be for me as a witness for Bnei Yisrael. Ladies, I almost fell off my chair when I read this pasuk. You know why? You know why? Because it was almost as if Hashem was telling us to write a song about this concept of hastara and the great light that could be revealed amid the hastara. It was as if Hashem is telling us, listen, there's going to be a great hester panim, but write a song about it and make sure the people have chizuk that no matter the hastara, I'm always with them. Fast forward 2,000 years, some Breslover guy comes along, takes the words of Rabbi Nachman and composes the song. ואפילו בהסתרה שבתוך הסתרה. The double lush. Is that amazing? Tell me if that's amazing. There's a God in the world. Ladies, sometimes in life, it seems as if God has left the scene and that He's forsaken us. It's true. But in the mystery of life, in a time where everything seems hopeless and we feel lost, look what happened tonight. That's precisely where we have to look for Hashem, because He's there waiting for us to recognize Him. You can find the light in the dark and then extend that light outward and share it with other people. You have the ability to turn darkness into light with your emunah and the strength of a Jewish woman. Every step that you take towards the light of Torah and Emet is like another candle that burns brightly for someone else whose road may be dim. You women, all of you here, your efforts is what helps to banish the doubt and insecurity in the world. Because when you hold on, despite the challenges that you have no clue how much light you bring to this world. I want to tell you a story, because I know women like stories. I want to tell you a story about one of the great Hasidic masters known as Avraham HaMalach, alav shalom. He was the son of the great Maggid of Mezrich, alav shalom, who, the Maggid of Mezrich, was the successor of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, who was the founder of Hasidut. Anyway, one day, Avraham, who was a little boy, was crying. And his father asked him, Avraham, why are you crying? And he says, because Abba, I was playing hide and seek with my friends, and I hid in such a good hiding place that they weren't able to find me. They searched and they looked. They didn't find me. So his father says, so why are you crying? You won the game. The whole point of the game is that your friends should search for you, but not find you. That's the point of the game. So if they didn't find you, that's great, because you won the game. Zayofi. Why are you crying? And little Avraham says, Abba, you don't understand. After a little while, they all stopped looking for me. And instead they went to do something else. And then his father started to cry together with his son. And he looked up to Shamayim and he said, Ribono shel olam, isn't this the story of our history? You hid yourself so that we should come looking for you. But Hashem, you hid yourself so well that many people just stopped looking for you already. Ladies, this story begs us to ask a question that the Bet Yosef alav shalom asked. So why did we celebrate Chanukah? You see, when the Gemara describes us the story of Chanukah, it tells us that when the Maccabim discovered that one jug of oil in the Bet HaMikdash, the oil was enough to last for one night, right? But it miraculously lasted for how many nights? 8. But the first night shouldn't be considered a miracle because that jug of oil was enough for that one night. Nachon? So technically, Chanukah should have been a 7-day holiday, not an 8-day holiday. So why do we celebrate Chanukah for 8 days? There are many answers, by the way, to this question. I only want to share one answer with you because there are sfarim upon sfarim about this one question. Chachamim explain that the miracle and celebration of the first night is for the fact that the Jewish people searched for the jug of oil and they found it. That's a miracle. Well, what's miraculous about that? I'm going to tell you. You see, when they walked into the Bet Mikdash was ransacked by the Greek army. You don't know what that Bet Mikdash looked like. the Greeks violated the holy temple. They put a statue of their god Zeus in the middle of the Bet HaMikdash. They slaughtered pigs in the Kodesh HaKodashim in honor of their god in the Bet Mikdash. All the jugs of oil that were usually used to light the holy menorah in the Bet Mikdash were broken and they were contaminated by the Greeks. So when the Jewish people went into the Bet Mikdash, what they found was total chaos and plunder. Under such conditions, who would think to start looking for a jug of oil that's pure? Who? It doesn't look like amid all that chaos and all that balagan that you're actually going to find one jug of oil. Bishvil ma lechapes? For what to look? And yet the Gemara tells us that the Jewish people searched and searched and searched. Batku vebatku. They searched until they found that one jug of oil. And when they lit that jug, it miraculously remained lit for 8 days. This, ladies, is the story of so many of our lives. Many of us may have grown up in a very turbulent and confused setting. Perhaps we saw a lot of dysfunction in our homes. Perhaps we saw a lot of corruption in the community. Some of us may have experienced a lot of pain and disarray, and many of us have witnessed corruption. Many of us stopped searching for a jug of oil that is pure and wholesome. Many of us don't believe we could actually find purity in this world anymore. We just don't believe that we could find wholesomeness, confidence, joy, love, friendship, and authenticity out there anymore. Our generation has become extremely jaded and cynical. Many of us have become emotionally paralyzed, and we've given up on our hopes and on our dreams. Because Dafka, we've experienced so many disappointments, it became easier to just stop hoping and to just stop dreaming. It's easier. So in a way, the miracle of the first day of Chanukah is even greater than the other 7 days. You know why? Because the other 7 days, Hashem created a miracle, and the candles remained lit when under normal circumstances the candles wouldn't have remained lit. Nachon? Mazal? But on the first day of Chanukah, we celebrate the human miracle. Not the godly miracle, the human miracle. It's the miracle that we had the courage and the emunah to continue to search. It's the miracle of the persistence of the human neshama, and how that neshama never gives up hope. Not on its dreams, not on love, not on the Ribono Shel Olam. We never give up on possibilities, and we never stop searching for that jug of oil in our life, even if there's debris, and even if there's rubble, and even if there's chaos, and even if there's plunder, even when there's so many issues that we need to deal with, even when we're faced with difficult challenges, and even when there's corruption out there. We should never stop searching for that jug of oil that's actually there and waiting for us. We should never stop searching for that jug of oil that's untouchable. That jug of oil is pure, and it's powerful. And if you find it, and if you continue to search like our ancestors did all those years ago, when you find it, you're going to light that oil, figuratively speaking, and it's going to light up your life, and it's going to light up the world in the most miraculous ways, just like it did for our ancestors. You hear what I'm telling you, Mazal? And we inherited this amazing sense of determination and spiritual devotion from Yosef HaTzadik, who visited our home every night on Chanukah, which is the holiday of Emunah, the holiday of endurance and of light. Yosef HaTzadik stood next to our menorahs. Next year, you're going to know this now. Blessing your house with strength, with Yeshua. You should just know that. He's the one Torah figure who the Torah tells us created a light for the generations, especially the generation of the Hashmonaim. The Hashmonaim were able to defeat the Greeks because of Yosef's ability to combat the darkness in Mitzrayim. I'm going to explain it to you so you could appreciate this holiday that we just had, and Yosef HaTzadik even more. And with this I will conclude. The story goes that while Yosef was an Eved to Potiphar, his wife attempted to seduce him day in and day out, but he wouldn't respond to her. Now, could you imagine how difficult it was for Yosef to overcome this nisayon? Yosef is a young man. He's extremely handsome. He has no other options available to him in Egypt. He's all alone in Egypt. No one would find out if he committed this sin with Eshet Potiphar, because no one in Egypt knows who he really is. So the seduction of Eshet Potiphar was very, very strong. And the entire time, Yosef is controlling himself and he's holding himself back. And then the Psukim inform us something very interesting. It says, Vayehi kehayom hazeh. That day was very significant. Rashi HaKadosh Alav HaShalom tells us that on the day when Yosef entered the house, you're not going to believe this, but his intention was to do the sin with Eshet Potiphar. He finally broke. He was going to go to the house and be with her. Can you imagine? Annie? Yep. What happened? All of a sudden, he sees the image of his father in front of him, and miraculously, Yosef was able to muster up some superhuman strength, and he leaves his coat in her hands, he turns around, and he runs off. What happened there? What was so special about that day? Rashi HaKadosh tells us that that day was the holiday of the Egyptians. It was the holiday of the Avodah Zarah, and everybody was out there busy worshiping and celebrating and bowing down. So Potiphar's wife says to herself the following. She says, there is no better day than today for me to try and seduce Yosef. She dafka waited for this day. She waited kivyachol for like December 25th, like Christmas Day, to roll around on the calendar in order to entice Yosef, because this was the day of Tumah. And now Yosef realizes that he's alone with her in the house. Chachamim tell us that at this point, Yosef finds himself in the Tumah of Mitzrayim, which was the epitome of perversion and the center of immorality. He finds himself in the house of Potiphar, battling his Yetzer Hara in a place where there is zero Kedusha. And Eshet Potiphar picks the unholiest day of the year, where the Tumah is the strongest, where the Avodah Zarah is being worshipped, where the air is filled with tremendous corruption. And she's trying to use all the kohot of Tumah to affect Yosef's neshama. And all of a sudden, Yosef sees the image of his father in front of his eyes. What does that mean that he saw the image of his father? Chachamim tell us it means that the Shekhinah came down from the highest place in the heavens in order to save Yosef. Yosef's neshama was on the verge of breaking, And the Shekhinah HaKdosha came down and lifted him up and brought that glimmer of light back into Yosef's neshama. You hear this, Annie? The Sfarim HaKdoshim ask, do you know what night that was when this episode took place? That night, when Yosef HaTzadik was in the grip of darkness, where his neshama was about to be extinguished. That night, ladies, was none other than the 25th day of Kislev. Was the first night of Chanukah. How do I know this? Because the pasuk says, Vayehi kehayom hazeh. Chachamim say the word kehayom is chaf hey yom. It was the 25th day of Kislev, which means, I want to tell you another secret. It says that he saw the image of his father in the window. There's no other Chag, there's no other holiday in the Jewish calendar that we use a window other than which Chag? There you go. That's another proof. Another proof, by the way, it says Chalon, that he saw him by the Chalon. Chalon, if you take the word Chalon, it's spelled Chet, Lamed, Vav, Nun. Chachamim say the Lamed Vav in the center of the word Chalon, Lamed Vav, is 36 in Gematria. 36 is the number of candles that you light throughout the entire period of Chanukah, not including the Shamashim. And the Chet of the word Chalon and the Nun of the word Chalon stands for Nes Chanukah. Wow. It is? What do you say to that one? It's a good one? Unbelievable. 25th day, which means that the light of Chanukah was already rooted in this episode way back in Egypt with Yosef HaTzadik. Therefore, every Chanukah, Kadosh Baruch Hu begins the revival and the resuscitation of all his candles. That's you. You're one of his nerot. Yesterday, my keilah in Eretz Yisrael, I'm part of a big keilah, they had a big Chanukah party on the last night of Chanukah. And they sent me clips of every little thing that was taking place, the performances and the dances, and then my Rav spoke. And he was touching upon this point. I go, wow, we thought the same. And then he said something so beautiful. And he says, each one of you ladies here is a ner and a Kadosh Baruch Hu's great Chanukiah. He says, forget Chanukah now. You light up the world because you're his candles. Every woman here is a candle of Hashem, and you light up the world. So on Chanukah, Kadosh Baruch Hu wants the lights to shine brightly in your home so you could feel the warmth of Kedusha and embrace your emunah with some renewed energy. And this episode of Yosef HaTzadik, that Kadosh Baruch Hu came down for him on the 25th day of Kislev to save him from the Tumah of Egypt, guess what? I'm going to give you another chidush now. Is alluded to in the tefillah of the Al HaNisim that you recited every day throughout these days. I'm going to remind you what you said and how you didn't even know it's connected to Yosef HaTzadik. Next year, you're going to realize it. Next year, we should be in Yerushalayim lighting the menorah. But anyway, what do we say in the Al HaNisim? Listen to what you said. You said these words. Nakamta et nikmatam. Hashem, you took revenge against our enemies. Masarta giborim beyad chalashim. You delivered the mighty into the hands of the weak, etc., etc., etc. Lecha asita shem gadol vekadosh be'olamecha. You made a great and holy name for yourself in the world. Ule'amcha Yisrael asita teshua gedola. And you created a great redemption for your people, for Bnei Israel. And then what did you say? Then you recited these words. Ufurkan kehayom hazeh. You said these words. You said, you made a miracle and a salvation. Kehayom hazeh. Like that day. What's that day that the Alanisim is referring to that you said every single night and you didn't even realize what you were saying? It's reminding you that just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu came down from his throne of glory to save HaKadosh Baruch Hu's neshama on that day, you should feel that immense love on Chanukah and know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes down to you too. You should never feel alone. You should never feel that Hashem is not there with you. So this time period of Chanukah is the time where you could have drawn so much from that special light, from the Kedusha, and then be uplifted and happy. Because Chanukah is the Chag that speaks volumes to our neshama. It's that Chag that's filled with so much love and so much light that's ready to embrace you. So with everything that's happening in the world and all the signs that are pointing towards Mashiach, including the Nes Chanukah that we had today, it's time for us to take a step in the direction of that light. And that's the message of Yosef HaTzadik, and that's the message of Chanukah, ladies. And once that small beam of light enters your heart, Hashem is going to take care of the rest. So let's take the lessons of Yosef HaTzadik and gain chizuk from them. Hold on to your emunah, ladies, and know that wherever you may be in the world, or whatever place in life you're holding by, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is waiting there for you with open arms. Yehi Ratzon, that in these trying times of Chevlei Mashiach, we should merit to make whatever necessary adjustments that we can, so that we'll be among the minority that will merit to experience the final Geulah. And when we do experience that Geulah, we'll also merit to see the ultimate lights in Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh, with the Bet HaMikdash standing in its completion. Bimhera b'yamenu. Amen ken. Yehi Ratzon. Thank you for coming, and have a wonderful rest of the year.